Dear students, this is your first class today, and we would be talking about the first course, that is Comparative Anatomy of Vertebrates and Developmental Biology, which is a core course, and the other course ma'am is teaching you, that is ZOOL 101, that is about invertebrates. So before we go into detailed account of vertebrates, I would be talking about the classification of the animals, because we can't straight away jump from, without knowing the invertebrates, we cannot jump directly to the vertebrates, which is a more complicated system. So I would be throwing some light on the broad classification of the animals, and it is just an introductory lecture. Basically, the animals are broadly classified into two groups. These are non-chordates and chordates, and if we are not being very specific, these are also called as vertebrates and invertebrates, and I'll tell you the difference why I'm using the term non-chordates and chordates. The non-chordates and chordates, they are distinguished into two different categories depending upon having a notochord on the dorsal side of the body. So broadly, the non-chordates would be the invertebrates, means those which are not having the notochord, which is a solid dorsal cord present on the dorsal side of the body, dorsal side of these animals. So they are notochordates or invertebrates. And furthermore, there is one difference I must tell you, that now we do not include the dissections in your course, but earlier when you used to perform the dissections, the vertebrates, or let's say the chordates, like you have frog or fish or any other animal, or rat or rabbit, we dissect them from the ventral side, because there is a solid dorsal notochord present on the dorsal region. So we cannot dissect them from the dorsal side. Whereas if we compare it with the invertebrates, let's take one example of the earthworm. Those invertebrates or those non-chordates, there's a principle that we dissect them from the dorsal side, because then they also have a kind of cord which is not exactly equivalent to the notochord, and it is present on the ventral side. So these are dissected on the dorsal side, where strictly the chordates, they are dissected from the ventral side. The chordates, if we talk about chordates, the thing would come into mind, the ideas which come into mind, these are kind of most familiar, most adaptable, most successful, and widely distributed, having a wide diversity, wide variety of the organisms. These are all chordates, and they have the chordates basically, they have certain specific characteristics. There are many characteristics which are common between the vertebrates and invertebrates. We are not going into that detail, but we'll look into the specific characteristics, which are particularly 4 in number. We would be talking about that. So these are: 1, having a solid dorsal notochord on the dorsal side, just above the alimentary canal, that is the gut, and above the notochord there lies hollow nerve cord. Now the two things are different, and you notice the spellings are also different. Cord and nerve cord, they are different, having different spellings. A notochord is something which is a solid structure which is dorsally present, and whereas nerve cord, that lies dorsal to the notochord, above the notochord, and that is a hollow structure, and which in the anterior region, in the higher organisms, that changes into the brain, in the craniata. So this is one feature. If we look at the structure, TS of the notochord has, basically it is having 3 coverings. Outermost covering, one it is a thick covering, and into that is the fibrous notochordal sheath, and within which are packed many vacuolated cells. That is the typical structure of TS of notochord. Other than that, as in this diagram, you can see that this is a diagram of Amphioxus on the extreme right, and you can see the blue line that is representing basically the notochord, and whereas the pink line that is describing the nerve cord. So these are basically 2 features. The main 2 features, having notochord; second is having the nerve cord which is hollow, and that is also dorsal. Third feature is that having pharyngeal gill slits, means the pharynx is perforated in the chordates, if you look at the and these are perforated by certain bars over which the gills are born, as in the fish, or let's say even in case of, particularly in case of fish, and as you go higher they are lost. And if you have one question that whatever we also fall under the category of chordates, and we do not have such kind of feature. Let me tell you that eustachian tube, which is present in your head region, that is actually representing the remnant of the one of the pharyngeal gill slit. Very first gill slit, that is represented by remnant. That is a remnant which is being represented by the eustachian tube, and how and that opens into the pharynx, and this you can judge by putting the eardrops into ear, and that reaches into your throat region, particularly in the pharyngeal region. So that also justifies that we have the remnant of pharyngeal gill slit. So these characters, another feature is that presence having a tail. That is another feature of the chordates. So all these features, all these characteristics, they are present. Tail is the part of the body which is present behind the cloacal or anal opening, and it contains notochord or vertebral column and nerve cord, blood vessel, nerve, muscles, but it lacks the coelom and viscera. That is the definition of the tail. And here I mentioned two terms, that is cloaca or anal opening. So cloaca, in the lower organisms, cloaca is present amongst the vertebrates. That means that is a common opening of the urinary tract and the alimentary canal, and also in some cases genital tract. Whereas anal tract, it is the independent opening of the alimentary canal. Then some books, they also include another feature which is having an endostyle. In this diagram on the right side, which is representing the diagram of amphioxus or branchiostoma, you can see a brown colored structure which is endostyle, and endostyle is a ciliated glandular groove in the mid-ventral surface of the pharynx in adult urochordates. I'll talk to you about the urochordates next. So this is a clearer view of notochord and nerve cord, and this is the structure of the notochord I just discussed in the previous slide. So I will come back to the chordates again, and chordates has 3 living subphyla. What are these 3 living subphyla? These are one, urochordates or tunicata, second, cephalochordata, and third are the vertebrata or craniata. So urochordata, they are also called as craniates, and in this diagram you are seeing these pinkish and bluish colored organisms, which are basically the sedentary organisms. These are tunicates, and there are many examples of these tunicates, such as they are let's say they are kind of sedentary organisms, but at some stage their larval phase that has, it is also called as sea squirt. One of the example is sea squirt or herdmania. There are other examples also belonging to this particular subphylum, such as Dololium, etc. So what is the feature, or how the subphylum is getting its name from? Urochordata. Euro means the tail. It means the notochord is confined to the tail region, and whatever I have told you earlier in the earlier slides, that those 4-5 features, these can be present in those organisms to be a chordate at any stage of life. It could be the larval stage, or it could be the adult stage. Those features may be present, they have to be present during adult stage, or let's say the larval stage. So urochordates means, urochordata comes from the term urochordate. Uro means tail, having the notochord confined to the tail region, whereas tunicates, because you can see these pinkish structures, their body is lined by a covering which is tunic. So the term comes from here tunicata. These are they are sedentary organisms, but they do have notochord confined to the tail region. This is the adult. On the left side you can see the sedentary organism with a pharynx with numerous slits, and then it has an incurrent siphon to mouth, and then tunic and atrium, excurrent siphon, etc. You can see in this diagram where it is written B. Whereas in diagram C you can see this diagram is of the larval stage of tunicata, where it has notochord made with a purple line, and that is also marked here, also labeled here. Notochord is confined to the tail region. The larva of the tunicata, it resembles the next higher category, that is the cephalochordates. So this is how the urochordates, they have their name. Then second of subphylum, living subphylum of chordates is the Cephalochordata. This is an example of Cephalochordata. The name of the organism is Amphioxus. And you can see on the left extreme corner, this is the structure which is called as the velum. And this purplish structure, big purplish structure, this is the pharynx of the Amphioxus or Branchiostoma. And you can see it has a red blue line extended up to the head region. It is not exactly the head region because brain has not been formed, but it is a kind of snout. So the term comes from cephalo. Cephalo means something related to the head region, cephalic region. The cord is extending up to the cephalic region, so this is how it gets its name. And it has numerous pores, numerous clefts, gill clefts in its pharynx. So these features are present in it. And then is the, now you can see in this diagram the different structures have been shown. It has an endostyle which is placed on the ventral side. This is the section of the diagram which you saw in the previous slide, this slide, and this is the TS. The next slide is showing the gill slits and a notochord, a nerve cord, endostyle, and it has of course the tail region also, which includes all the organs, that is notochord, nerve cord, all the vessels, etc., but except for minus the visceral organs. Then after this comes the vertebrata, higher organisms, highest category of organisms. They are also called as craniata because in higher organisms, that is vertebrata or craniata, notochord is replaced by the vertebral column. Therefore, the name is coming from the vertebral column, vertebrata, and craniata means the cranium. The term is derived from the cranium, the organisms having the cranium. Cranium is a brain box, which in case is the brain, and brain itself is formed by the enlargement of the interior part of the nerve cord. Nerve cord, and that hollow nerve cord in the anterior region, cephalic region, it forms the brain. It becomes highly complicated, and that is enclosed by a box, a skull, that is the cranium. So these are all higher chordates. So next to it, if we look at the higher chordates, that is the vertebrates. In the vertebrates, that is the subphylum vertebrates. Vertebrates, before you simply jump onto the vertebrates, the vertebrate has a brief classification, again divided into two infraphyla or section, lower phyla or sections, which are section 1 is Agnatha and section 2 is Gnathostomata. So I am showing you the slide of Agnatha, a representative of Agnatha. A means missing, Gnatha means the jaws. The organisms which do not possess the jaws, rather they are round-mouthed fish, and we have two representatives shown here in this diagram. One is the hagfish and second is the lamprey. We also call it as petromyzon. So these are round-mouthed fish without having any jaws. After which come the Gnathostomata. So vertebrates include the Gnathostomata and Agnatha. Agnatha I have already shown you. And according to hierarchy, lowermost organism which is represented in the Gnathostomata are fish. Then come the amphibians. After amphibians come the reptiles and mammals and the birds. So that is all for now.